Jesus sums up the commandments in two statements. Love your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Father Gustavo Gutiérrez, the father of the Latin American liberation theology, died on the 22nd of October in his apartment in Lima, Peru, at the age of 96. He was a Dominican Peruvian priest and scholar who was regarded as the father of liberation theology, a far-reaching school of thought and action, born of solidarity with the poor and marginalized people. Father Gutierrez wrote the famous book, A Theology of Liberation, a landmark work of social and theological analysis, originally published in Spanish in 1971 and first available in English in 1973. He asserted that the God of the Jewish and Christian traditions exhibits a preferential commitment to the poor. According to him, the salvation of the poor was not achievable only in an otherworldly afterlife, but could also be realized within human history. To know God, he insisted, people must work to eliminate poverty and unjust conditions on earth. Father Gutierrez wrote, a preferential option for the poor was not a question of idealizing poverty, but rather of taking it on as evil, to protest against it and to struggle to abolish it. In short, he was proclaiming loud the message of Jesus, love the Lord your God by loving your neighbor. In the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 5 we read, Moses said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord our God with all your heart and with all your souls and with all your might. He was explaining the law to the Israelites after his return from Mount Sinai. He tries to make the people give reverence to God and obey the law given by God as something that will bring them dignity, purpose, stature, distinction, and a unique place in history. He reminds them that keeping God's commandments will give them God's blessings of long life, prosperity, fruitful and peaceful lives. In the Gospel according to St. Mark, chapter 12, verses 29 and 30, Jesus quotes the same verses from Deuteronomy, but adds the complementary law as given in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus quotes these verses in answer to the scribe who asked him, which is the most important commandment of all. One of the persons in recent times who has shown us through her life the love of God is love of neighbor is Saint Teresa of Calcutta. Again and again she has spoken about seeing Jesus in others. What we do to others, we do to Jesus. In her acceptance speech for Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, she shared an incident. She said, One evening we went out and we picked up 4 people from the street, and one of them was in a most terrible condition. I told the sisters, You take care of the other 3. I will take care of the one who looks worse. So I did for her all that my love could do. I put her in bed, and there was such a beautiful smile on her face. She took hold of my hand as she said one word only, Thank you, and she died. I could not help but examine my conscience before her, and I asked, What would I say if I were in her place? And my answer was very simple. I would have tried to draw a little attention to myself. I would have said, I am hungry, I am dying, I am cold, I am in pain, or something. But she gave me much more. She did not speak about herself. She gave me her grateful love, and she died with a smile on her face. We can only demonstrate that we truly love God only by loving our neighbor. Jesus is our model for this. In the letter to the Hebrews chapter 7 verse 27, we read, He has no need like those high priests to offer sacrifices daily, first for his own sins and then for those of the people, since he did this once for all when he offered up himself. Unlike the other priests, Jesus, who was holy and blameless, made a love offering to God once and for all for the sake of the salvation of the whole world. It was a supreme example of love of God and neighbor. Our life is meant to imitate the Lord and to reach out to others who are in captivity of various kinds. Even a small act of love can be a great deal for a needy neighbor. Loving God with all our heart, soul, mind and strength is the only response to God who loves us so much. We make our love of God real by praying every day, reading the scriptures, receiving the sacraments, because we will not be happy if we do not love God. When we love God, we become much happier because the more time we spend with God, the more we receive the life of God. And this life of God uplifts us, heals us, renews us, and invigorates us. The more we love God, the more we get a foretaste and a glimpse of heaven here on earth. Loving your neighbor is finding God hidden in the other person. In the 16th century England, Lieutenant General Oliver Cromwell ordered a soldier to be shot dead for his crimes. He was to be shot at the ringing of the evening bell. But that night, at the time when he was to be shot, no sound came from the belfry. There was a girl who was to marry him. She climbed up into the tower and had clung to the great clapper of the bell to prevent it from striking. She was brought before Cromwell and was questioned about her action. She did not say a word, but wept bitterly and showed him her bruised and bleeding hands. Cromwell was greatly impressed, and he said, "Your lover is alive because of your sacrifice. He will not be shot." Loving your neighbor would mean not judging, but being merciful, trying to understand the other person. May the Lord fill us with His love, that we are able to love God and our neighbor. Let us proclaim with the psalmist, "I love you, Lord, my strength."